Welcome to the Women Get Funded show, where we are dedicated to empowering women founders to shatter barriers and achieve exponential growth and funding for their business. Join us on this inspiring journey as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises. With only 2% of venture funding going to women-led businesses and a mere 3% of women-led companies crossing the $1 million threshold, these startling statistics highlight the need for change. I am Kofo Selman, 5-time founder, impact investor, creator of the Force for Good business system, and your host on this transformative journey. In each episode, you'll meet a trailblazing woman leader. You will meet venture capitalists, CEOs, successful founders, and experts in scaling business growth. Our purpose is clear. We are here to open doors and provide women founders with invaluable access to advisors, investors, and visionary leaders who share our commitment to creating a better world through women-led business at Women Get Funded. We see a future where tomorrow's Amazons, Mercks, Microsofts, and Home Depots are born right here, led by women. They represent the future face of business, and we're here to make it happen. I believe that women-led business is the most powerful, transformative force of our time. Together, we make the world better through business. Are you in? Welcome to the Women Get Funded show. We are dedicated to empowering women founders in shattering barriers, growth, and funding for their business. Thank you for joining us today as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises. Today, we have a super guest. So excited to be here with Jessica Karr, who is a formidable force in venture capital. She is the general partner of Coyote Ventures, which backs founders who are solving problems that disproportionately affect overlooked populations, very important, including women's health. And it's founded by scientists, entrepreneurs, and investors. Coyote takes an integrative view of health that spans physical, financial, and emotional health. Very cool. A former biochemist at Impossible Foods. I'm sure we've all heard of Impossible Foods. Jessica has a rich background in science and entrepreneurship, such a perfect balance for venture. In this particular area, she holds a BS in biochemistry and a BA in philosophy. Love that. From Texas State University and a minor in Spanish. She then went on to UC San Diego and earned a master's degree. And at Impossible Foods, she was an integral part of the R&D and product development teams contributing to the launch of the renowned Impossible Burger. Her tenure has been marked with significant learning in product development and company culture creation. Following this, Jessica pursued an MBA in sustainability and impact and consulted for numerous startups on product strategy and financial modeling. I mean, it's how could you end up anywhere but venture? So Jessica's transition to venture was driven by a passion to address the underserved area of women's health and wellness. At Coyote, she focuses on early stage companies that promise significant positive impacts on overlooked populations, fostering innovations that challenge societal taboos and advance gender and societal equity. So it's just so exciting to have you here. I mean, not only are you a venture capitalist, also a swimmer, yoga instructor, rescue dog mom, tequila mixologist, avid reader. Welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Oh, thank you. That's the best introduction I could ask for. I'm going to play that to people so I don't have to repeat it.
Well, well, you have such a dynamic background. I just love it, and I know you're as you as I we've talked about. You're a reader, so tell us what's one book written by a woman that has significantly influenced your life.
So the book is Women Who Run with the Wolves. And I love this question as a lead in because it's really critical to really understanding how Coyote Ventures was born. And when I read that, it just really exemplified it's using storytelling to understand the archetype of a woman and what it is to be female identifying. And so I just said, this is actually like the feeling of that is the vision for the world that Coyote is striving for with our investments. And so Women Who Run with the Wolves, I highly recommend. It took me about 6 months to read because it's so deep. You can read a page and think about it for a few weeks, which I highly recommend. And kind of like a Bible, I can just open it to a page and I'll be like, what does it want me to learn today? I do that all the time. And so instead of wolf, it's coyote. And when I read this book, I also had taken a trip with some girlfriends to Sedona. It was very special because a few of them were expecting their first children. And we went to the birthing cave and very special trip. And we also went to this medicine wheel and learned about the four directions, in the Native American symbolism of what some of the four directions meant. There's four seasons and they have different animals representing different seasons. So coyote is one of the directions and it definitely represents and in some of the storytelling in Native American culture, coyote is the trickster, but it's not always like tricking in a bad way. It's tricking in a way of personal growth. And, so that meant a lot to me, and then coyotes throughout COVID were breeding and taking over cities, and you just see them walking down the street in San Francisco. So just at a significant time in my life, both intersection of career and some personal things in my life related to women's health, while I was seeing women's health innovations, I also saw a coyote and I just thought, I don't see them all the time. So it was kind of a significant time. And I thought that it was sending me a message for personal growth. So that's how the name Coyote Ventures was born.
Oh my goodness, Jessica, I have to tell you, I don't think I knew this part of the story with you with Coyote, but this book, Women Who Run with Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, is one of my favorites. And it was I had a very hard time in my sophomore year of college, and this book brought me out of the darkness.
That's so
It's
beautiful.
true. There's a place where it talks about, and I'll get choked up about it, but if only we were told that we were born with the hearts of warriors. Right.
Mhm.
It comes from this book. And I think it's so appropriate for us as women who are in venture and in entrepreneurship. It's a great book. So I hope everybody picks this one up and finds their story because it's about archetypes and
Mhm.
it's reflections. And I love it because each archetype has darkness and lightness, right?
Mhm.
It's not just heroes and heroines without flaws. We're all, multifaceted. So, thank you for sharing that with me, and thank you for, it's great that it's inspired your work. So tell us more about your journey right now. I know you have such an incredible background and history. You're obviously a very intelligent and curious person to search and find and in all the ways that you have. And I know impact matters to you. So tell us about Coyote and what your vision is, what you hope to create in the world as a result of Coyote Ventures.
Definitely. Great question. And we're funding a lot of different tools, some digital, some physical, to improve women's lives. And we definitely see that they could be synergistic with each other. And overall, right now we are, each company's reporting their impact metrics, and we're sort of compiling that. And the vision is, to change, the statistics overall, in the US and the world in terms of, high maternal mortality. And, one of the things I was motivated by in the beginning that has caught some attention recently is sexual wellness for women and orgasm gap.
Mm.
Um, and there was a story recently in the New York Times that, I can see even more disparities growing in that area, given some of the problems happening with um, the the New York Times article is about sort of like younger generations and some of the non-consensual things happening. So it's very concerning. And so really want to, kind of from the ground up, these companies are creating impact on individual lives. And then, in 10 years, we can look back and see how we've contributed to some of these, maternal mortality, orgasm gap, like so many different areas of women's lives. There's really over 100 metrics that we could list. And we've created 2 impact reports. So it's annual. We've done it for 2 years in a row. And we are reporting all of those metrics that the companies are measuring, and there's about 50 health outcomes being measured right now, just with, the currently we have 11 companies in our portfolio.
That's extraordinary. And I know you have a focus on women's health, but I know you also talk about, overlooked populations beyond just women. Is that also an area that you focus on?
Yeah, right now it's a lot of intersectional of women, and a lot of the disparities in women's health also disproportionately affect BIPOC women as well. So right now it's focused on those, but it definitely gives an opening for, future directions within future funds. And part of the language inclusion right there is also saying we do women's health, but a lot of things that improve women's lives, people don't think of women's
Yeah.
health. So we did mental health, and we did, bereavement care, financial tools that, I mean, most of their users are women. So a lot of our recent investments are examples of how broad our thesis is. And it's, we have done menstruation, menopause, breast cancer, endometriosis, which are very important, but also showing that a lot of other areas of our lives are synergistic with those as well.
I love that in your thesis, it's you define, health as physical, financial, mental, emotional, occupational, developmental, community, environmental. I mean, these are such important, as you said, 50 different indicators of health and different ways that you can look at health and how backing I have my feeling, and I know you agree with me, is that, business can be a force for good. And these are innovative solutions that are making the world better. Right. And so so we sort of talked about it is you focus on your investment thesis, the kinds of startups you're looking at, seed, digital health, health in general. How else would you categorize or explain your thesis? Or
Generally, we're looking at digital tools that improve women's lives. And so, some of the financial tools aren't in the classic digital health, but they have a health angle to them. So it's not like pure fintech for women, really. But yeah, I usually say digital tools. We have a few, physical investments as well in terms of consumer products, and we have a diagnostic. So there's a couple in there that are synergistic that aren't exactly considered digital tools either. But moving forward, we are very much looking at these specific types of, I would say our core thesis is like a very specific type of digital health tool where they are measuring health outcomes. So it's sort of beyond the time where a digital health company can basically launch telehealth only and depend on that for health outcomes. There's really lots of ways to intervene on health between physician visits and to sort of give physicians more tools to help their patients as well. So kind of a trifecta, I would say, would be the health outcomes, reduce the burden on the healthcare providers, and then, bill the payers. But
Yeah.
really for the
Yeah.
payers, I shouldn't have said it that way, but it was a joke. But for the payers, you can bill them because you're reducing the cost. So you're providing a cost savings in a way by demonstrating health outcomes. So that's kind of the trifecta of digital health. That's our core thesis, but there's lots of other ways to impact health. So we are flexible in our types of investments as well.
That's great. And I love your portfolio. I wonder if you tell us a little bit about Malama Health, founded by Micah Eddy. Such a cool company.
I'm glad you picked that one. I'm a huge fan. It's definitely a perfect example of what I just said with the digital health trifecta, and they've really helped shape our understanding of it, to be honest. And so they're addressing high risk pregnancies, starting with gestational diabetes. So Mika, she has 2 kids and went through having gestational diabetes personally. Professionally, she had worked in innovation at United Healthcare Group. And so she kind of put the two and two together and said, by replacing this pen and paper system that's the standard of care at Stanford, where she also did her MBA, but that was where she was, the health center she had been going to, writing down blood glucose, all day, anything you eat, any exercise, writing it on a pen and paper and showing the nurse. So she put the two and two together and said, we're building a platform that helps women, track all of these things, also integrating with the healthcare provider so that they can see the data live, in the Epic EHR. And they have a perfect health outcomes dashboard that, they're bringing to the payers now. And so it's not like a D2C app for diabetes. It's a very sophisticated, platform for health outcomes. And they've been able to show over a 30% reduction in preterm births, which is huge because that's also, cost savings against, C-sections, which is also healthier to do the, vaginal delivery. And it also helps people to not develop, long-term diabetes or cardiovascular risk.
I love this. And, I just invite all of our listeners to check out Malama Health, their website, because it's beautiful. It's
Mhm.
so well articulated, and you just see what, how it's going to work for you as a mom if you're pregnant, and how it will apply. I did not know. It's wonderful to hear that it's integrated with the electronic health system.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's a powerful platform.
Mhm.
So,
That's how they're reaching patients too. It's like partnering with the healthcare provider. So anytime anyone's diagnosed, the healthcare provider recommends it for their patient. And so they're really, not going directly to the moms, which they can. They're reaching moms, especially through word of mouth, and they have a community. But really working with the healthcare providers, they're publishing a paper with UCSF on how it's saving the, physician's time as well.
so, Jessica, what I love about this is it's a great story, but I'm also listening to you tell it from, the perspective of an investor, and
Mhm,
unpacking why it is that you would invest.
mhm, mhm.
Right?
Yeah,
can you sort of help our listeners understand, it's a great story. It's a really cool product. But there's some really good things about this that
yeah,
make an investor sort of say, yeah, 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 I want this.
definitely. I think I have some criteria that I can explain a little bit more on Coyote's side, but I think the advice for founders coming out of this is how simple that story was to understand. Right? Like I see so many that are like, let me tell you what we do. And 10 minutes later, I'm like, no, I don't get it. Malama Health really set the bar in terms of yes, I get it. I get why payers would pay for this. I get why this is an important problem. I get what the platform's doing in terms of financial outcomes, it's very strong. It might seem so on appearance that it's like, oh, how many people in the US are pregnant and have gestational diabetes? But when you look at like the cost that, the payers are willing to pay for that, it actually opens up a huge market size. And so, the story was really clean. The financials were really there. The other thing I love is that they have, Mika's a very strong CEO. She has a really great technical co-founder. He
Mm,
built the MVP before they raised any money. And so that also set the bar really high, where now I see some companies raising $3 million to build out a product. And I'm like, well, some companies can do that without raising and diluting so much. And the other great thing, so they only raised about a 1.5 million round in 2022, and they've already started burning revenue. And, they haven't really needed to go back out there. They will. They'll
yeah.
raise another
Yeah.
round, but they haven't. They just are very capital efficient and great at earning revenue. And in this, capital environment, that's one of the most important things. Stay alive.
Stay alive. Yeah. Keep growing traction and
Yeah.
generate revenue so that you can pay for your expenses and, keep going. Right. I love that story. And, I am curious, is there, there's a lot of value in the database they're building too. I imagine that there's a future, roadmap that extends beyond what they're doing.
That's a great point. I think a lot of data for women's health hasn't been collected in this way. So I haven't dug into that with them. They're probably thinking about it. But yeah, that's a very, very good point. And I would say a lot of companies are thinking about this too, of the lack of data been collected and how that could be leveraged to, again, improve health outcomes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So just to like, I want to just express to everybody who's maybe listening and trying to raise money, and they're trying to do what Jessica just said, which is I don't have an MVP, I don't have a couple hundred grand to get that first product built, and to partner with someone, right? To find a partner, a tech partner who can take some equity. You share the equity, and you figure out how to make it all work together. Has to be the right partner, but then you really create a real strong team with has very neat, varied expertise. Um, that's going to make the company strong. So I love that story. Tell us about. Let's talk about Better Leave, founded by Samara Hernandez.
Oh, Samara's a lead investor, Chingona.
Oh,
Kara McCarty is the CEO of Better Leave.
Kara. Okay.
Just saw
Thank
her in
you.
Austin last week. I love this vision. So, again, came out of a personal experience. She was an HR leader, and over a holiday, she came home, and her mom, suddenly was in the hospital and passed away really, really suddenly. And
Oh
came to
gosh.
know how that experience felt. So, she was devastated and realized, there's not any care for people that are bereaving. So, there is there is a competitor who just raised about 40 million, and there's a lot of gaps that their Better Leave is providing that they're not. So, maybe won't get into it too much for, intellectual property reasons, but basically what Better Leave saw is a kind of comp that I like is there used to be maternity leave, but not maternity care. And now there's billion-dollar businesses built off of, caring for maternal health. And yes, it is a very different need overall. But yeah, a lot of people that are bereaving, they only have a few days off. They don't, it's their first time dealing with like, how do I plan a funeral or any of the estate execution that needs to happen. So they've consolidated a lot of their resources and they are selling to employers as a benefit. And one of the main offerings that people use is the mental health part of it. So they want to talk to coaches and therapists who are experienced at grief and loss. And so they're actually developing, specialized programs for grief and loss. So it's not like you would just go to one of the other mental health telehealth companies. I think a lot of people don't think to do that. And a lot of, a lot of special training goes into the grief and loss coaching and therapy type of work.
Amazing. And so, what was it about this particular opportunity that was delicious to you? Like, what parts of it were compelling?
I think then I can take that a higher level and just say the kind of the three top things we're looking for is number one is innovation. So,
Yes.
and I definitely saw this as a very innovative,
Yeah.
idea. And, I wouldn't have ever thought of it unless that happened to me, I guess. But, um, I just, yeah, I thought that it was a great perspective. I could definitely, see the passion in Kara. As well as, she has an advantage from her background being an HR leader and knowing how to sell this product and who to sell it to. She's very strong in her
Yes.
sales abilities. And going back to Mika at Malama, having worked in, at a big payer, she knew how to sell. So I think that sort of unfair advantage that we talk about
Yes.
is like our CEOs have a sales advantage because they, a lot of them have been the person that they were selling to before. So that's, it's definitely a needle in a haystack. But those are what appeals. And then, number three is obviously each deal, with venture math has to have the opportunity to return the fund. So it does have to be a very, very strong opportunity. We do look really deeply at the financial projections and the assumptions behind them to say, could this potentially return the fund?
That's great. Well, and I wonder too, you mentioned it, but I wonder if you dig in a little bit that there was a competitor, there is a competitor who had already raised, what did you say, 30,
It
$40 million.
actually we invested in Better Leave in 2023, and they did this raise this year, so it was after. But we were aware of the competitor, but now that they've raised more, they're actually going, against each other in some of the sales, some of the employer sales.
Which it means now, right, that it's demonstrating that there's a market, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, she
like,
was actually happy about it. She's like, "This
yeah,
proved out the problem." Mhm.
yes, exactly. Because sometimes you might get a founder who has an idea and maybe they don't have any competition. Nobody else is so, nobody else is really doing it. And there's sometimes that can be a real risk, right? Because it's like, well, is there really a customer? Is there really somebody who wants this? Whereas if it is a newer kind of blue ocean market, it's nice to have some evidence of of other, players that there really is a customer to buy.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you look at sort of Maven and Carrot, like, they can kinda compete, right, for employer contracts, so it's sort of like these 2 could start competing and still both be successful, so,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So looking for the position too, right? Like knowing who your competition is and then being able to, it sounds like in this case, Better Leave has really identified some places they can win.
Mhm. Mhm, definitely, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'd like to talk about one more. And which one would you like to talk about? I do love, of course, I love Hera because
Oh, yes,
now
we can talk about Hera.
can we talk about Hera? I know
That's one of our first investments. So they're developing their first molecular diagnostic for endometriosis, which is a huge, huge, huge problem. And every time I talk to people with endo, it's just, I want this diagnostic to exist right away. And the other really important thing about a diagnostic existing is that therapeutics can't develop really until there's a molecular diagnostic because a therapeutic has to do a trial. And the trial, you think about getting diagnosed for endometriosis, the standard of care is invasive surgery on the abdomen.
yes.
So I don't know if a trial would ever do that surgery before and after, right? So um, Hera is actually working with therapeutics to be the diagnostic in the clinical trials. So it's going to help women get diagnosed, but it's also going to help for better future treatments. And you really need the diagnostic before that. So right now, all the therapeutics are really addressing pain rather than the root cause. And this is an example of disparities in women's health is the cause
Totally.
of endometriosis is not very well studied. And so the scientists behind HERA are publishing papers on what is the root cause of endometriosis and looking at how it happens, at the cellular level, what's happening. And there's a change in genes, essentially. She explains it well. I'm
Well,
a little like I'm a scientist, but I don't understand all of the connects and genes and the whole story there. But she definitely tells it like a boss. But I do understand that they're measuring basically this change in the gene profiles, and it's really really both sensitive and specific, and so it's going through the FDA now. They're doing their first clinical trials, and they are raising a Series A. So people who invest in, diagnostic Series A, so it's a great opportunity to participate in that.
wonderful. And how, like, what's are they? Is Hera how they're in the trial process? I mean, this is an expensive journey, right? And
Mhm.
so are they starting to develop relationships? How are they thinking strategically? Like, where do you think, how are they thinking about their path?
They are working deeply with a lot of, the leaders in the diagnostic space. So
Uh,
without, being too
Giving
public
away.
about the strategy, I think that's the biggest area is that there's, both on the pharma therapeutic side as well as there are some big, leaders in the diagnostic space, both like women's health specific and general. So really the opportunity is to find the best partner within one of those organizations.
Yeah. And that's, I think, just again illustrating for our listeners how, like, this is a great opportunity for the world, for women. I mean, I was telling you earlier today, I have endometriosis. I'm getting a hysterectomy. It's um it's upsetting that you have I mean, in my case, I suffered for a long time without realizing that anything was really wrong, because we
Mhm,
just in women's health, our a lot of our stuff is just overlooked and
mhm,
just normal, right? So to see as an investor this opportunity as, okay, this is a huge market, it's real, and but there's also a path forward, there's an exit out. The founder is thinking about where that next step is going to be. You want to
mhm.
talk a little bit about the importance of, exit strategy when you're looking at a pitch?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's kind of our job is to figure out how to get to that exit eventually. And yeah, we do sort of back into basically collecting data on what is happening in the market, like what valuations are, what exits look like. And when we invest in a company, have a comparison. Usually the comparison isn't endometriosis to endometriosis. Usually the comparison is diagnostic to diagnostic. So that's another advice that I have for founders is especially in women's health. I'm both a women's health investor and a little bit anti women's health category
Yeah.
because people are, I hear every day kind of the negative on how hard it is. And I know I see it, but sometimes if people get excited about a technology or, an opportunity, it doesn't have to be clumped in with this area that's getting kind of a reputation for having trouble. And people are excited about it, but people are also a little scared, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So exit's really, really important. Like, when we do look at diagnostics, we do look at comparing what diagnostics have exited, in the end, like, what are some of the big exits? How much diluted would we get along the path? What's the average time? So we're constantly collecting that data, and when we make an investment, that's kind of our end, projection is like, what are some potential scenarios for ROI? And again, each one has to have the potential to return the fund. And so again, for founders raising, I think one of the biggest opportunities is there's so much information you can read. It's on the internet in books. Like, yeah, I definitely feel strongly that founders should understand what venture math is because I meet a lot of them
Yeah.
and they don't have projections past, next month or, I think like part of it is like, yeah, I think what you're spending now is important, but for me, what's more important is that you have a goal for 5 years being at X amount of revenue, and it should be more than 5 million in 5 years because I see that a lot too. It makes me really frustrated.
Well,
If I was
no
able to put it,
coaching. They clearly didn't have any coaching, right? Like there
it's
was no
surprising. They go through major accelerators whose names you
wow.
don't know without a financial model in the end. Sometimes they have big name investors, again, without that. And yeah, one of my investments, I caught mistakes on the cap table and they had other investors committing in the $1 million range without catching mistakes in the cap table. It's
But so what I'm hearing you say though is that if you have 5 million at the as revenues in 5 years, you're not gonna unless you're looking for 10x, right?
or
Even
more.
or
Yeah.
more,
10x is
10x,
like,
20x, like
yeah.
right.
Like for context, early investors in Uber got 1,000x. And that's really the opportunity that we want to see. Or anything, 50 to 100 is great too. 10 would be like, it'd be nice if we had a few that were 10, but really would love 50 or 100 or more. And I think that the opportunity is definitely there. So, in order to get that return, most companies, so Bessemer Venture Partners has great content, and on their website, they have 5 years to 100 million. I think that that's a really great, maybe you can link in the show notes.
Yeah, where is this? Say it again.
Bessemer Venture Partners. They have really great content overall. That article is not very new either. So definitely think everyone, that wants to raise from venture should understand this. And, venture funding isn't the definition of success for all founders
No.
either.
No, right? It's I think I heard a statistic. It's around 4% of all early stage companies are a right fit for venture at all,
Mhm.
right? So it's not for everybody. So and some businesses are just not. You could go pitch your blue in the face, and you're never going to get funded through venture. But that doesn't mean there's not a million other ways that you can fund your business.
Yeah. And if it's your baby and you want to own it for the rest of your life, you don't want to turn it over where you're not a majority owner.
Exactly. Exactly. So Jessica, what happens after you make an investment? Tell us about what size of investment you like to make. You like it to be at early stage, seed stage,
Hmm.
and then what happens? Like, what does the relationship look like after the check is written and you're working with the partner with the
Yeah. And a little more on the stage and fit. So we
yeah
we put
yeah yeah
together seed. Malama Health, for example, called themselves pre-seed, but really what happened is that they had their MVP ready. So if you call yourself pre-seed, but you have an MVP, we're okay with that. We're okay with pre-revenue, but really showing it some initial LOIs with partners or some form of traction that you can prove. We need to understand like what do the B2B contracts look like essentially. So that's more about exactly this stage because I know some of them have different labels and seed extensions. Sometimes those are in that category as well. So we've done, especially in this market, seed extensions slash prime slash bridges, whatever you want to call them, are very standard. So don't feel self conscious about those. So once we write a check, first of all, we're making sure, we know who else is in the round. And if there's room
yeah.
in the round, we have preferred co-investors. So there's a couple preferred co-investors that we're in several deals with. They're all female-led emerging funds. And they definitely complement our skill set and definitely we're developing networks of healthcare systems, healthcare executives, payers, physicians, some on the employer sales side as well. So both for helping introduce companies for sales and also helping them create their strategy of like what does pricing look like, what does the sales process look like. So I would say yeah, between getting more funding with the right funders, as well as getting, sales leads and helping with the strategy are basically our two strongest suits. But yeah, we have a CEO group on WhatsApp, so you can always throw out any questions or any. One big topic is that all of our CEOs are female. We don't have actually that mandate, so I think one day, like, we'll have a man in that mix, but, a big topic is a lot of them are moms, and some of them are first-time moms, and, they're running a company. A lot of times they're still raising
Money.
funding, so part of it is supporting each other around, you know, how do you do all this while creating your family? So, I only have my fur baby. You can see him in the video. That's my baby coyote.
So great. So great. Well, and I think that's a huge I always like to ask that question because not all venture is the same. And you want to look for partners that are going to be able to add value to you and your journey. And as a woman, man, wouldn't that be nice to be plugged into a group of other women CEOs going through similar challenges and the fact that you have at least a little, you have a concentration where it's digital health. There's some like expansion around what digital health means, but there's a lot of ways that they could probably help one another. They could probably introduce each other. And then
Right.
surrounding them, then you have I love that you said that you have other venture partners, other firms that you like to co-invest with, right? Because now
Mhm,
you're creating an even bigger network, right?
mhm.
And value you can bring. Um,
Yeah,
it's
and if you're
that's
raising follow-on rounds, that's one of the important ones, like, so, yeah, I have when a company's raising, I have a list of 200, and I actually have a co-investor form that my network fills out, and it is, stage, interest, thesis, etcetera, and that helps filter out, like, if they're, gearing up for Series A, who should they speak with, and make all of those sort of individual introductions. And yeah, it's very important to have good co-investors in that realm, but like getting follow-on funding is very, very important as well.
very totally like how you're going to be set up for
Yeah.
that on the next step. Um, where do you get most of your leads for founders? Is it coming in directly from your website? Is it other people that, other investors that are sharing their lists and their opportunities?
All of that. So some of it is having, some it's different for each one, but usually it is within the network. So some of it is network of I would just say ecosystem. It could be like another, friend who knows this person. Some of it is the co-investor route. Some of it is the founder referral. We do look at all the, website submissions as well. So we have done like one of our first investments was from a LinkedIn ad, which I don't recommend right now because I get too many messages and I just realized I missed like a whole thing of messages that I had been looking for. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, all these people wrote back and I didn't see it." LinkedIn gets crazy.
Too
But
many
yeah,
inboxes, right? Too many inboxes.
I do try. But yeah, I realize I missed some important messages. But we do try, point being, and I, now have a team of venture partners who are helping a lot with looking at the submissions, taking a lot of the first calls. And yeah, I really trust their gut as well.
That's
So they
great.
have really great knowledge and recommendations.
So for founders who are interested in pitching, it's good to have a good list. Find suggestions on that. I've heard it's better if you can get an introduction from somebody, right?
It is, yeah, especially if someone just says, "Hey, I really enjoyed meeting this founder. Here's some notes. Like, it's a fit for us because XYZ." Yeah, especially if they're investing. I definitely always appreciate them sharing the opportunity. And if sometimes they'll send and be like, "We met, but it's too early," or it's like too outside our thesis. Yeah, I see all those messages and take them into account because some of the meetings I do, I'm like, I might not have noticed this, but I got like 3 people emailing me about it.
Isn't that
Yeah.
cool? And that's an
Mhm.
endorsement, right? So it's a hard job to be a founder, right? To have to build your company and fundraise. That's what you're doing. It's tough. It's really, really tough. So what would you recommend to a founder who keeps pitching but keeps getting turned down?
Yeah, there's definitely 3 things that could be going wrong. One is just the storytelling and the skill, which is maybe the most easy to fix. The second would be there might be something underlying within the business itself that's not a fit. Either not for venture, as we talked about, or there might be something that you need to fix. It
Mm-hmm.
could be in the product or financials. And I would definitely ask for honest feedback on either one of those. If it is the story and pitch, you would practice with people and they might tell you frankly, like, hey, this makes no sense, or hey, your style isn't gonna resonate. And you can work with, coaches on those. Um, if it is, feedback you get within sort of I definitely think, having advisors, like leveraging, if they can be angel investors or advisors, who have had a track record of raising money. Everybody needs that in their business. If someone asks me for advice on fundraising, I'm like, "I'm sorry. I can't do that for everyone." And, you should get someone in your field of expertise who can, like, just when you're building a company, you have to grow a really wide network. And, no one can come in there and just fund you and save you, because you're gonna continue to face challenges every aspect of the business besides the fundraise. There's so much needed. And so, that's just if you can't fundraise, that can be a red flag for other things. So having people helping you, and if they do catch, oh, your financials need to incorporate more of this, or maybe your story is too confusing, or, variety of things, having those advisors there to help along the way. So yeah, and then I think the other thing is some people might be just connecting with the wrong types of investors.
Yeah.
So I've seen some that are great with angels and don't know how to raise from venture. And um,
Mhm.
so that's interesting. Or it could be that, it's either the wrong category or the wrong, um, yeah, maybe some of the female founders do need to find more of the female led funds. And, that information is also widely available on the internet. So
It really is. There's
yeah.
lots. There's a
Mhm.
growing number and with different types of expertise and areas of focus. So I think there's good places for everybody. And what would be any other final wisdom you would want to share with women and other underrepresented founders as they're on their embarking on their journey to grow their businesses?
Yeah, I think definitely being authentic and connecting with the people that resonate with who you are authentically, because, if you can't do that, then you're going to grow in the wrong way and be a Theranos or, or worse, you might not grow that big. I was kind of impressed, honestly, with that story in a bad way. No, just that she had amazing sales technique, even though it was very unethical. It's like, that's kind of an interesting data point. But she wasn't authentic, and
Mhm. It
and
eventually backfires.
yeah. Hmm.
Right, in one way or the other, like, it's just it eventually backfires.
Ooh,
And you look for that as an investor, right? You're looking for, the whole vision and story and package. So,
yeah. Yeah, and I think that shows through that's why we do a lot. I'm like, we're not just investing in the people, we're making sure they have the right materials, they have the product. Like, we want to trust the people too, but we're spreading our bets across 25-ish companies, so we
yeah.
often don't get to know them over the years. So we kind of need to have a quick assessment of both, what they're producing as well as them as people. And for them as people, we definitely can pick up on some, and it's all out of personal experience, right? Like, some people who are narcissist, or people keep saying this word dark triad. Um, I think it's like narcissist and other things. but I've heard that word so much in the last week, it's weird. But yeah, I think having been like, "Oh, I would have been impressed with this person, but they have these characteristics of being too into themselves," and I could see how that might turn into narcissism. And it's hard to know without working them for a while, but you like, after working with some people, you kind of pick up from past experience, like, what some of those potential red flags could be, and kind of have to have them have that have that flag kinda come up quickly because we spend a few calls together and
Right.
maybe.
It takes a lot of time to do all that diligence and and for both for you and for the founder and team. It's a
Mhm.
lot of it's a big dance. Big dance. So tell us, Jessica, what are you working on now? How can we support you? Are there opportunities or connections you are currently seeking that we can bring your way?
Well, we are actively looking at deals, so if it fits our thesis, happy to take a look and through our website and through any people who could recommend to us. And, we're growing our fund. We're also partnering a lot with healthcare providers and payers. So some of the folks that are in the healthcare system listening to this, definitely happy to have you in our network as well.
Oh, that's a wonderful invitation, right? And advisors, people who have been with those payer networks, big
Mhm.
healthcare networks, work in hospitals, C-level, kinds of people. There's probably ways to, and there could be opportunities. Maybe there's advisory opportunities or whatever within some of your portfolio
Yeah, we
companies.
have an expert advisor network, so we match them with the companies directly. So um, that's definitely an opportunity.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And so you can go to your website and they can pick up from you. They can go right there. There, you click on the form and you can pitch. You can put in your pitch. So that
Yes, coyote.ventures. There's no .com, coyote.ventures.
coyote dot
Coyote.com is a
ventures.
snow blowing company, so
Oh
that's not
no.
that's okay.
Oh my goodness. Well, it is so lovely to get to have an opportunity to connect with you, Jessica, and share your brilliance and wisdom and everything you're doing to make the world better. And Coyote, and I love your story about Clarissa Pincola Estes and women who run with wolves. Oh, that's such a wonderful connection for me. So thank you for being here at Women Get Funded. Thank you for illuminating the path to unlocking opportunities for growth and prosperity for women led enterprises. The world is made better by women led business. Let's go make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you ready to build a business that leads in both impact and profit? Discover the Force for Good book, a guide for purpose-led leaders who want to accelerate impact, scale, and profit. Pre-order your copy today at www.aforceforgood.biz/book and receive immediate access to 30 plus valuable tools for you and your team. Join the Force for Good movement. Pre-order your copy now at www.aforceforgood.biz/book.